had the iPhone 17 Pro base model since it came out, the very first week that this phone launched, and I got it in this beautiful classic silver. And I want to give you more than just the specs now. I want to give you just something that most people aren't going to talk about, and that's some of the areas of this phone that you got to know about if you're going to decide to still get this one, or if you just had it and you want to know a bit more about my experience with it so we can connect on the iPhone. We'll start with the very first one, and that is the kind of the ledge fatigue of this phone. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, on the bottom of these phones, they do have very curved edges, but the area down here kind of feels a little bit like a ledge to place my pinky on, and this definitely feels a little bit heavy after using the phone for about, I don't know, scrolling for a little while, 30 minutes or so. So you notice the heft of this phone long term when using it, because this is the Pro after all. It's not as light as the 17 or even the Air, but at the same time, that heft reminds me why I'm using a Pro. It feels like the more premium phone. Add to the fact that I slap a case on this phone. This is the Tech Woven case by Apple. I'll leave a link down below in the description. This phone gets a little bit heftier. So iPhone 17 Pro is still retaining that heftier feel that they've been doing for years, even on the small version, including 11 Pro, 13 Pro, 14 Pro. It still has that. But one of the things I noticed in my long-term use with this is the smoother edges really give this thing something of a joy to hold in the palm, because almost no phone on the market that is in this size range feels this good in the corners. A lot of them do have kind of like similar copycat shapes, but this one has a very smooth feeling aluminum. It's hard to describe unless you pick it up. It's kind of like that aluminum feel on like a MacBook, for example, but smoother. So I really do like that about this phone. The phone also has that camera plateau, so it has virtually zero rock on the table here. So if I bring a little bit of zoom in right here, if you're like tapping away or whatever, this phone doesn't rock at all. So really tend to enjoy that aspect of it as well. Some people tend to not really like this look of this big thing up here, but I think it actually looks pretty good, especially on this silver one. One thing I don't love, and I talked about this on my previous videos, is this area, and I still look at that and think it's an eyesore. But the truth is that if you've had this since launch, you probably noticed that there's not too much scratching on the screen, because this ceramic shield too is much tougher to micro abrasions in the real world, even in your pocket. So I haven't actually put any screen protector on here, and I haven't had any real issues with the phone. I get some smudges, but I actually wiped it down for this video just so it would look pretty for the video. You feel me? It's got to look good. So I wiped it down there. But I gotta say, man, the iPhone 17 Pro, this thing has just held the test of time when it comes to the look. Granted, I had a case on it, and this aluminum edge is still gonna be rather easy to, chip up, dent up if you drop it. So I still highly recommend a case. But this size is not as slippery to me as the bigger phone, because it's not as wide and not as big, not as easy to fall out the hand. But if you're playing around with it, oh yeah, it can definitely slip out of the hand just because of the aluminum nature of this phone. Now, one of the things I noticed about this, particularly compared to the Max, is that the camera control is closer to the power button. So when I'm actually placing this guy on a tripod, the closeness of this, like when you place it on a tripod to like use the camera control, take a video, sometimes that thing that holds the phone kind of smashes the camera control down. So a little bit more on this one. So I don't love this one for, accessories like that, for the camera accessories, because it's just so narrow from power button here to camera control. But I also think that the, reaching that power button on the Pro is just, you can see it right here in this image, this video. It's just so much easier. It just falls right to the thumb. I wish there was a fingerprint scanner on there. That would be really quite nice. Now, we're heading into summer pretty soon here, and I gotta say, man, if you're getting a new phone, 17 Pro should be high on your list. You're gonna be out and about, running the streets, going traveling, whatever. This thing's lightweight, but one of the things too is that outdoors, this thing is The thermals are great, so it stays pretty cool to the touch. And one of the things a lot of people have talked about in the past was that the older iPhones would dim the screen, get too hot under certain temperatures outdoors. It would dim it, and it gets rather annoying. You're like, I paid $1,000 for this phone, and this thing is dimming on me. They have like this heat feature that will like save the phone from like overheating, so that's why that happens. But even when you're playing games and things of that sort on the 17 Pro, its thermal efficiency is just absolutely through the roof. So it's one of the best things you don't really think about. It's kind of like, if you have a car and there's a part in the engine that like just always works really well. You don't have to think about it, but you always can trust that transmission, or you can trust that those cylinders or whatever. You can trust it because it's tried and true, and it's got good efficiency. Kind of feels like that here with this phone. You don't think about it because it's just working all the time. But when you have a phone that starts heating up in your hands, you're going to miss this thing if you weren't using it. So I definitely do like that. Something else that's been actually surprisingly good is the Wi-Fi performance. And I don't have my eSIM on this one right now, as I'm currently right now using the Max. But the Qualcomm X80 in here, it's just great. Like, it has really solid reliability when you're in places like a basement, a train stop, subway. It tends to hold on to that signal better than before. So we don't hear a lot of reviews talking about particularly signal a lot, but this one tends to give you a better signal than before. And I do like its 5G performance as well. These are much better than some previous iPhones. One of the things, though, that I will say is that it's kind of hard to keep this phone pretty steady when you are in video at 8x. So right here, beyond 8x, it can get a little bit wobbly. I mean, it's not terrible, but if you're trying to get something in motion, it jiggles quite a bit. You could see right there. Versus the lower zooms, it's a lot more stable looking. So this might need a little bit of tripod action if you're going to be doing some far zoom. But even at that far zoom, you're getting pretty shaky and stuff like that. So keep that in mind when using this phone. One of the things after, all these months later that I still really love is the front-facing camera. This was made a big deal of at the event, and for a good reason. I haven't yet to use a smartphone in 2026 that has outshined the front cameras on the 17 series. So there's a reason why they're saying these are the most popular iPhones of all time. Having one of the best selfie cameras is a big deal. Having 18 megapixels isn't necessarily the most megapixels we've seen, but the actual pragmatic use of this in real world use on that front facing camera is absolutely stupendous. It's amazing. So I do like the camera here. I am kind of giving this high praise, but we had 12 megapixel, the same iSight camera for such a long time that it really does feel changed. It really does feel better. Another thing is this anti-reflective coating on here is pretty awesome. So there you can see basically not much glare whatsoever. Now let me show you a phone that doesn't have such a great I don't even have a screen protector on here, but the Galaxy right here, this is the S26, which is also a nice purple phone right here, but you could see that glare is pretty substantial. Not quite as much on this phone. So definitely the anti-reflective coating properties are rather nice. It's something you kind of get used to and you kind of don't want to go back. And speaking of that display, it's been really, really well tuned, very accurate, and it's super easy on the eyes. One of the things about it is that PWM feature really does enhance the quality of the screen at nighttime. So if you do have issues with like eye strain and stuff like that, this is going to look really easy on the eye. I haven't had I actually haven't had no bad experiences with this phone at night, nor have I had with the other 17 series models, except for, well, actually none of them, but any of them with this PWM feature right here, it's been awesome. So I like that they're making an attempt at that feature set here in accessibility. I think they could do a little bit more with it, as some other phone makers are, but the 17 Pro has been absolutely excellent in that experience. I will say that the haptic feedback on here, it's solid, but it's nothing to write home about. It does a good job overall, but I've seen better haptic feedback overall. The thing about this though is that it doesn't really give you the upgrading itch. You don't like when you get a phone, you're like 6 months later, you're like, yeah, I think I'm going to upgrade, or maybe even a year later, you're like, I'm going to upgrade 2 years, 3 years. I feel like this one's gonna hold its own for a while, similar to the 13 Pro Max. How that phone still feels legendary to this day. I do think that the 17 Pro series is gonna feel great even in several years to come. So that definitely gives me that background blend in your life. You know, this phone really does well in that area. Battery life has also been really good for a smaller phone. I don't really ever have to utilize the low power mode on this device, so that's really good. And the 120 hertz has been pretty freaking awesome. It can get extremely dim at nighttime too. You can also enhance its dimness with some accessibility options. And iOS 26 has been getting better through some updates. However, it's still not the fastest software out there. It is very smooth and very polished, so I think a lot of people are still going to love it. But there is some improvements definitely to be made in the software department, but it has been working pretty well. So it hasn't been like a deterrent or anything like that in reality. So wrapping it up here, I gotta say, this phone really doesn't make too many sacrifices. It's almost like the perfect balance of everything. Great cameras, great size, not too heavy, not too light to feel cheap. Camera control, power buttons in a decent location. The action button gives you some customization. iOS 26 is polished. It has a great front-facing camera, great rear set of cameras. Doesn't zoom the furthest. There are further zooming cameras. The AI features are still in beta. But at the end of the day, for what you need in a phone, I feel like this is near perfection right here. With one con, it being aluminum, it is less durable than the stainless steel titanium of the past, but your trade-off is better thermal efficiency, so it kind of has been worth it. I think Apple is onto something with this series of phone. I do like the two-tone look as well, and the classic silver is just absolutely stunning. It's neutral. It looks good all the time. It looks good for months to come. It's enjoyable. So my long-term honest review is basically the iPhone 17 Pro. If you have any questions about it, I don't even know if I want it because it might not be as good a battery, don't even think twice. The battery's good. If you're like, I might get more with the Max with the camera, nope, same cameras. If you're like, the size might feel small, that one can be true depending on how you use it. But if you're trying to be portable, this is much better. I have to nitpick to try to find something because it's really that good. So we're going to wrap it up here. That's my take on my 17 Pro. After a long-term usage, I will update you again after iOS 27 launches. We're also going to do some more videos on this as the phone ages. I like to do phone videos as they age too. I don't want to just cover them the first day, the first week. We'll cover them down the line as well. But if you have a 17 Pro, please consider sharing your thoughts, questions, comments, concerns down below. It helps people out. We're also in the market for these devices as well to hear your experience. So I'd love to hear those down below. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.